McKinsey PEI. It's enough to strike fear in the heart of anybody who is in the middle of one. But a lot of people don't know when they're about to walk into a McKinsey interview what is about to face them. And we're here to pull back the curtain on that today. I'm Jenny Rae LaRue, the Managing Director of Management Consulted, and our team of ex-McKinsey consultants have built an incredible body of resources on the personal experience interview at McKinsey. The personal experience interview, otherwise known as the PEI or the McKinsey PEI, is a test that is focused on really honing your soft skills and identifying who has the ability to handle pressure, as well as a number of other characteristics that we'll talk about in this video. Overall, the interview usually is around half an hour, sometimes up to 45 minutes. It's usually a separate part of a McKinsey interview, although they do use the PEI format just in chit chat when you're with a McKinsey interviewer, if you have 10 minutes at the end of a case interview as well. And the PEI is basically one single question with multiple follow-up questions. And the standard is about 20 to 25 follow-up questions. Let me give you just a little bit of a history on the PEI. So a number of years ago, McKinsey was looking at some data that they tracked, and it was focused on the ranked scoring of everyone who came into McKinsey as an interviewee. And they had scores, and McKinsey does very rigorous scoring, first and second round, that's numerical, so they were able to track who their top performers were in the interviews. And then they matched that against the performance inside the organization, what bucket and tier and what the tenure was of folks. And what they discovered was a kind of alarming oddity, which was that the top performers in the case interview were not the top performers. In fact, in many cases, the worst performers actually on the job. And so they felt like the case interview, although it's a very robust test of people that make at least good consultants, wasn't testing for great consultants. And so they refocused on how to figure out how the soft skills could be tested. And to really hone in on this, there was no other better way than figuring it out rather than going to the legal industry. So the McKinsey PEI is based on cross-examination tactics from the legal industry. Congratulations, have fun. And so our focus now is just to really walk you through the four main things that they test for, how to prepare your stories, and what to think about if you're gonna go into the McKinsey PEI. Number one, the McKinsey PEI topics that they focus on are the four key areas that McKinsey is really looking for traits in their consultants. Number one is entrepreneurial drive. Number two is leadership. Number three is personal impact, and number four is problem solving. And so one PEI story will really begin with a nut that focuses on one of those things, and usually the PEI story will be selected by them or selected by you. So you can assume that it would be selected by them. That will help you prepare more broadly, just in case it happens. You, however, also might have the opportunity to select one of your stories. And in either situation, they're gonna start with one of these. So if it was an entrepreneurial experience, they'll start with kind of some entrepreneurial drive questions, but they're gonna lead to all of these key areas regardless of where it starts. If you're focusing on a time that you were in a leadership role, then they're gonna focus on that first and go into the other areas. So entrepreneurial drive, leadership, problem solving, and personal impact are the four key areas. Some example questions from an initial part of the PEI would be, for example, tell me about the most significant accomplishment of your career. It sounds innocuous and it sounds like the beginning of every other interview. But then what happens next is kind of the rigorous part. So then they would say, after that, what we'd like to focus on is a challenge that you faced when coming against that accomplishment. Then we'd like to talk about somebody you had to persuade to get things done when pursuing that accomplishment. Then they'll talk about the biggest obstacle that you had on your team in completing that accomplishment, and one weakness that showed up that was your weakness when pursuing that accomplishment. So everything hones back to that initial singular story. And other potential opportunities, questions that they could start with would be, tell me about a time you convinced a colleague to consider and agree on an alternate approach. Tell me about a time that you overcame a significant challenge at work. Notice a lot of these are very professionally focused. They're focused on your times that you were in a work or professional environment. Finally, tell me about a time when you demonstrated exceptional leadership. Now, when you're preparing a McKinsey story, when we have you prepare bodies of stories, we usually have you prepare 15 stories about 15 different experiences. That is great no matter whether you're interviewing with McKinsey or not. You're gonna use those stories. But if you're going into McKinsey in particular, you need to prepare 15 aspects of any one of your big stories that you highlight and walk me through your resume. So it's a different prep process that's incredibly focused on deeper, not wider stories. When you're preparing for the PEI, the first thing is to really begin to develop those stories at that deep level. You want to write them down and really reflect on the facts and the numbers and the details, and also how to be transparent and honest about the things that were difficult. Good stories never only have one side or one part. There's challenges and sweat and struggles, and then you accomplish something at the end. So you're going to really want to explain the nuance of what happened in the story. So number one, prepare your story. Number two, you want to get into a practice arena with somebody who has worked at McKinsey ideally, where they begin to ask you this kind of digging question. And number three is that during those sessions, recorded or getting the coaching from them, you want to integrate the feedback from those and tweak your stories. So number one, prepare your stories. Number two, test your stories. Number three, go back and tweak your PEI stories so that you're ready to improve on that experience. Overall, the PEI is literally the hardest fit interview you will face in your entire life. It's harder than business school interviews and really harder than anything. So you definitely want to practice this. We've got a great team to practice with you of ex-McKinsey and other consultants who are all trained in the McKinsey PEI, and there's nothing like the real thing. So we'd love to work with you. Just come find us at managementconsulted.com.